Howdy folks, EJ here. A few days ago, while I was flying around my huge confusing test world where I have lost hundreds of things, I came across this big thing. I realized that it was Mumbo Jumbo's design for a one-wide, tileable triple button output array. This design is all well and good, but unfortunately this design is not resettable, because as you can see, if you push this button, this piston will push this up, and then this block will never be able to come back down. So inherently you have a button that can never be pressed again after you press it one time. Then this one over here is resettable, however, and this one down here is not resettable. And I just looked at it and went, this thing has been around for a long while. I'm sure that the newer updates of Minecraft have provided ways to make this way smaller. I then went ahead and started prototyping. Here is a rather big one that I came up with first. It works by pressing a button here, and then this bud piston powering this redstone, and it goes to the output. Then you can press this button, and then it goes across to the output. And finally, you can press the third button, which powers a dispenser, activates the string, causing this bud piston to power a couple times, and outputting a signal. But I decided that this design was not good enough either. So I continued working. I came up with this tiny little design. It works pretty well, but there's a problem with it. As you press this button, this output gets powered. As you press this button, this output gets powered. But as you press this one, this output gets stuck on until you press this output again, because of the redstone block that doesn't allow the hopper to send its items back. So this design was a little bit flawed, unless you actually want a T flip-flop with your two buttons there, in which case it could be useful, and which is why I am still showing you this. Personally, I kinda like this one. It's small, compact, and it works as a T flip-flop. So in order to try to avoid a T flip-flop thing and just have three perfectly resettable buttons, I kept on going. I tried doing something like this, where I have this redstone go across. That works fine. Then I can have this, another dropper pointing into a hopper, so it gives you a signal. And then down here I tried using a piston pushing a cauldron full of water. Unfortunately, for some reason, it's a bug in Minecraft, when you push this remains powered, and it's not supposed to. So you have to push this one, and then this block gets updated, and this realizes that it's not supposed to be on, and then it turns off. So that didn't work either, surprisingly, even though it should work. Minecraft. Meh. And if you're wondering how this works, this dropper can be powered by this block, but the piston doesn't receive a block update, even though it's powered by quasi conductivity. This dropper doesn't cause a block update when it fires, so it can be powered without the piston being powered. This thing over here that Mumbo used in his original design, using a light to block update a piston that is being bud powered, does not work anymore, which is annoying. Neither do fence gates, or trapdoors, or any of that good stuff. I'm not sure why they took that out of the game, but now none of those things work, and it's quite annoying. So, working around all that, this is the most useful design that I came up with that actually works. As you can see, you push the button and redstone just goes across like normal to this one, and then you can press this button, and then signal comes out of that one perfectly fine, and then you can press this one, and a signal comes out of that one perfectly fine. All of these are perfectly resettable, and it works pretty well. Now, you can put this into a huge button array like this. It's completely tileable, it works just the same. Well, the only problem with it is that one of the signals becomes inverted, but that's perfectly fine because you can use a torch to uninvert it again as you take your output from it. So all of these are pretty much the same thing right here, tiled over and over and over again. As you can see, if I push this one, this signal becomes opposite. As I push this one, that signal becomes opposite. Push that one, that signal. How about this one? Yep, indeed we get a signal. So you can use this as pretty much an infinite button array. You can go as many as you want in this direction, sideways, as many as you want upward, and it'll still work. However, the more you put, it becomes a little bit more difficult to take an output from it, as you can see. In order to separate all these signals, once you've got them through, as you can see, I've got like a signal coming from here, a signal coming from here, but in order to actually take a signal from them, you need to have a lot of different paths of redstone. As you get more and more of these paths, it becomes harder and harder to take redstone outputs from them. For example, I can't put down redstone dust here, so because there's a comparator there, and therefore I can't get a redstone signal very easily from here, so I need to bring it upward or sideways or something. And then down here I have to get an output from this one, but if I put a block to put redstone on, then this block will not be able to get an output taken from it, and then this block, and you have to do some really complicated stuff. The more outputs you get, it takes a lot longer to separate the signals. So I have one going up to the side, one going this way. So you could make it work, and each one go to a separate output, but the bigger of an array you make, the harder it is to separate all these signals. But I have found a way that makes it work. So here's an example of how you could hook it up, and it can be infinitely expanded in any direction that you want, but it kind of takes up a lot of materials, so I wouldn't recommend having a huge wall of buttons like this. But this design does work, so you can use it if you want to. I just don't quite see the purpose and why you would need this many buttons for anything. But as you can see, this does work. As I press this button, I get an output from there. As I press this button, I get an output from there, etc., etc. So you can use this repeating pattern over and over again. You just kind of take off the two bottom inputs each time, and then the rest of them go on forward one more time. So then you can bring off more, branching off downward and to the side over and over again as you go, thereby separating all the signals, and no matter how high you go, you could go right up to build limit and still be able to separate all the signals eventually, though it would take forever, and I don't see why you would ever need to do that, because that's very complicated and nobody would remember what all these buttons do. If you're wondering why I didn't do something like this, it's because as you put an item in this thing, it tries to feed its items into here, but they also go down here, which is a problem because the hoppers are on top of each other. So every time you press the button, every item would end up down here, and then you wouldn't be able to activate these ones on top anymore. Also, you might be wondering why I didn't try to use slime blocks. Originally, I did, but unfortunately, some things happen with them, and it doesn't quite work the way you would think. It's a little bit complicated, but I did try messing around with that a little bit, but I found a better way to do it without using slime blocks, so I did. I also tried to avoid the problem that we had over here with this redstone block powering this hopper and turning this into a T flip-flop. I tried to avoid that by using some slime blocks over here and some melons so that I could power it in a different way. It just didn't turn out very well. But yeah, there are a lot of different things that you can do with this. For example, you can hook up a bunch of these cauldron pistons, or you could hook up a whole bunch of these types of things, and then you could have an array of T flip-flops if you wanted. So a lot of these ideas and designs can be mixed and matched into all sorts of interesting combinations. So feel free to use any of these designs and whatever you want. Feel free to mix and match them, because some of them can be pretty useful if you put them in just a slightly different way. But that is pretty much it for today. All I wanted to do was introduce a whole bunch of new concepts and give a whole bunch of ideas to you guys so you can build all sorts of cool stuff with any of these ideas if you feel like you want to use something with a lot of buttons. But yeah, I'm going to leave a world download and schematic download on Planet Minecraft if you would like to check out any or all of these designs and use them in whatever world you want. Be warned, if you try to make a button array that is this huge, it does work, but it will be a little bit complicated to get all the signals out. I will leave a link in the description to Mumbo Jumbo's original video if you want to check that out as well, because it was a pretty cool design at the time. I remember being pretty excited about this when I saw that you could have a little keypad do something for you. So I will put down a couple labels in sign form for all of these, and then I will put this world up for download. But that is all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye bye.